morning, and thank you for keeping it Citizen Television Daybreak. It is. We are so glad that you wake up each and every morning to join us on the show. And this particular morning, it is Tuesday, and you know what you usually do right here on Tuesdays. It's a social hour that we get to talk about pertinent issues and things that can actually help us become better human beings in the society. And it's usually just a conversation. It's two-way. Actually, it comes from our end and your end as well. And we welcome you to be part of this conversation as we are about to talk about something that has been like a challenge for many of us when we talk about the concept of forgiving and moving on, forgiving and actually healing and feeling like you're beyond your pain and whatever you went through. It could be in the different versions that you all know what you've gone through out there. But how do you get to a point where you can say that you have completely healed and moved on? And actually some people even turned that pain into purpose and they're using it to inspire other people. Hey, the practical aspect of that is why I have this panel this morning. A little different, but still the show remains the same. CJ and Roberta Bobby are away for this week. They'll be joining us hopefully next week. But we have Cutie with us. Cutie?
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I love the red. It's really poppy.
Nakwambia, I just added that, touch.
Ukimalizia utanirudishia. Utanipatia, please.
Ndakurudishia. Lazima ungesema hivyo.
Nirudishia nguo zangu. But good to see you guys. And of course, the new panelists.
All right. Great. And in studio this morning, I'm also hosting Pastor Margaret Kenya. She's Kenya, actually. She's actually a lady who is going to be helping us understand her own journey, her own experience. She's a survivor of an abusive marriage. And her journey has been quite an interesting one, and getting to a point that she forgave and actually healed. And she's here with us with a smile on her face, and sharing that story with a smile on her face is something that she's going to share with us this morning. And then we have with us Richard Wafula. Richard is a counseling psychologist, and he comes from Amani Counseling Center and Training Institute. Just take us into the psychology of this whole issue of forgiveness and what it looks like. Asante sana for creating time once again.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so right here on the show, it's usually very easy. Don't make it so serious. We just want to have a very nice conversation and help people understand, how to move forward, go beyond their pain and their traumas. And I just like to understand, first of all, from you, Richard. We usually just say forgiveness. I've forgiven you. I need you to forgive me.
Yes.
But do we really know what forgiveness is and what it actually means?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, forgiveness is an art. Why am I saying it's an art? I mean, it means different things to different people. Okay? To some people, forgiveness is letting go. To some people, it's just brushing things, and, to some people, it's being very intentional. But generally, forgiveness would mean the deliberate, conscious effort to actually separate your emotions and be able to go through the healing journey and the process. Forgiveness is a journey, it's a process. So, I mean, it's not sometimes automatic or guarantee that when you say you have forgiven, then you have let go of the pain. It takes a number of things to be able to actually get to the acceptance that, you have forgiven and you have really moved on. So forgiveness to many people or to different people, it's about your perspective. But psychologically, it's a matter of you being able to separate or letting go of that painful resentment, emotions, anger, and allowing your mind and, emotions to actually, come to an understanding that, yes, I went through a very hurtful situation, but here I am. I'm at a point of, feeling better from what the experience was.
Feeling better from that experience. Easier said than done, Cutie. When you heard that we'll be talking about forgiveness and healing, what came through your mind?
Well, I love what Wafula said, because forgiveness is really a process. Because we used to think you can just forgive someone and move on and be okay. But forgiveness is truly a process. It really takes time for any type of trauma. It doesn't matter what it is. And sometimes I think we want forgiveness from the other person more than you want it for yourself. But what I've learned is that forgiveness is actually for you, for your peace of mind. I think when it comes from you is when you finally heal. But sometimes we concentrate on the other person. You're like, I need my closure. I need this person to say a certain thing, like to own up and say, I'm really sorry, cutie.
For what I did, yeah.
I did this against you and all that. But I think it's like, I keep saying this like a joke, but it's true. It's like you want to take medicine for another person, that another person's headache, but you can't. It's your headache. You're the one who is going through this process. You're the one who is in pain. So you actually need to do it for yourself first.
It's for your
So
own
once
good.
you do it for you, you'll be able to forgive the other person. But you can't wait for the other person to actually own up and come to you, because the other person doesn't really care, honestly. At some point, there are those people who don't really care. They'll just move on like nothing ever happened. So you will be here waiting for them to actually own it up to you and say something, but they will never do that. So forgiveness for me is actually for me, for my own peace of mind. Once I'm able to forgive myself first, then forgive the other person. But it doesn't mean that if I forgive the other person, I have to sit with them on the other table. I can just forgive you, but you're seated on that other table, but I've really forgiven you. So it's a process, it takes time, but the most important thing is that you should know that you actually do it for yourself. As
Great.
Yeah.
That really stands out for me, that forgiveness is not about the other person, it's actually for my own good.
Yeah.
You know, when you're holding a grudge, it's like you're taking poison and you're expecting the other person to die. Yeah? So forgiveness is actually for your own good. And you're making it sound all easy and something that can be done, but Pastor Margaret will tell you it's not as easy as it looks like. And just as your way of introducing us to your own experience and how you came about to rise above your pain, your story is quite an interesting one. In fact, we can sit here the whole day just listening to what you went through. But let's start from the point of Margaret the wife, Margaret the newlywed. Tuanzie hapo. Najua tukianza huko nyuma. So you're married, you've met the love of your life. There's all this package that came that you said, this is the man. Muko kwa ndoa, things are going on well. Tell us a bit about how that story began.
I want to first of all thank the Lord for this opportunity. I got married in the year 2015, and I got married to a man of God, a man who loved God, a man who would pray in tongues, a man who would do missions, you know, just to spread the gospel, but a man who equally had a challenge. And his challenge was his anger levels, his temperament. So here we are, and you know, this is a man who treated me well when we were courting. This is a man who would book me flights, you get? Because when we were courting, I was working in Siaya, he was based in Nairobi. This is a man who will just fuel the car full tank, pap, he's in Siaya, just to come and see me, even for 2 hours and drive back. He's a man who made me feel like, nimeangukia. But immediately, he treated me well.
Okay.
Wacha nisichome. He treated me well. Actually, if I'm to say this, my first flight, he's the one who booked it. He was the one who introduced me even to flights. And by the time I'm landing at the airport, his car is parked at the VIP, whereby people don't park. But I don't know how he used to do it to manage to get the slot, so that when I just exit like this, he has already opened the door for me. So, like, for me, I was on top of the world. I was like, this is a good deal. And furthermore, I'm a pastor, he's a pastor. So, you know, after you have wedded, you can pretend in dating. Marriage is the eye-opener. So by the time I am there, something small can trigger him, and you will just see his hand shaking. And by the time his hand has stopped shaking, bam, it's on you. You get? So at first, when these things took place, I was shocked, because I could not recall the last time I was hit. But now the shocker comes in the sense that this is a man of God.
How many months or how many years?
Around 7 months.
7 months into marriage?
Around 7 months
you
into
get your
marriage.
first, was it a slap or what?
No, it was...
Oh my goodness.
It was a struggle, mate. We were in the bedroom, we were having a conversation. And now at that time, I'm pregnant, for goodness sake. 7, 8, 9. It was 9 months into marriage, because at that time I was around 3, 4 months pregnant. It was a bit shocking. I was surprised. Because, you know, when they say you don't argue in the sitting room, you argue in the bedroom. So he just turned and he just pounced on my neck, and I was, instead of even choking, Now the surprise was, hey, kwani siku hizi mapasi pia hufanya such things. So you know, I was the first encounter, it was the shock, the surprise. And you know, till now when he realized I'm gasping for air is when he stopped. And you know, the next day he was traveling to Mombasa to go for work. So he went, and I don't know what took place. And then he called me when he has reached there, and he's like, Margaret, it's okay, I'm sorry. I just don't know what came over me. You know, my anger levels, now the eyes are opening. Now this is marriage, the eyes are opening. And you know, I'm a pastor. I was even ashamed
to share.
How do I go and tell, you know, my bishop or our senior pastors in the church that Ogasa has just done this to me. So I kept quiet because I'm like, what will people say? And the thing is, do pastors really do this? And I came to realize, you know, by the time I came out in the open and I spoke, I came to realize people have gone through this a lot. There was another second encounter. At that time, the pregnancy is growing. There is a lot of hormonal reactions. I am reacting differently. Remember, this is the first time that I'm being pregnant. I've never been pregnant before. And anytime there will be a case, an issue. One time he got so physical, he beat me up. You don't know the meaning of beating. He beat me up.
I don't know the meaning of beating.
You have never been beaten when you're big. He beat me up until he tore my clothes till I was naked. And you know, at that time I think I was around 8 months pregnant. The pregnancy was up to this side. Actually, what had ensued...
So this was like a pattern, Margaret? Like,
yes, there was the first one. There was the second one. There was the third one. The one which really stood out for me is because I was 8 months pregnant. We were living with relatives in the house from his side. Because at that time, I was pregnant. I couldn't do many of the things. He was like, why should we pay a house help? And yet I've got some relatives who are just doing nothing in the village. So let's just one come. The marriage is new. This is the first time that I'm pregnant. Everything is new. And you know, it was like that is another community. I'm the only person here who is an outsider. We're living with 2 of his relatives. So most of the time, he tended to bend towards their side. Even, you know, even when they do a mistake, if I tend to correct, I'm a new wife, you know, it was a mistake on top of a mistake, is when I came to realize when you're newly married, you should not stay with relatives from either side because 2 of you are still new. So he tended to bend on their side, and I was like, because of these things that are happening, why don't we release these people? They go back to their place. We remain the 2 of us. We sort out. Then he said they cannot leave. If anybody is to leave, unless you leave, they leave, they go away, and they're helping us here. And I was like, I'm not even seeing the help. Why? Because most of the time, the finances were coming on my side. I felt like I was being drained. And at that time, I was employed in the bank. I was the one who was on a payroll. He used to work on contractual basis. At times, the contract will come. At times, the contract will not come. And when the contract will come, it will come a good deal. 800,000, 500,000, 300,000. And even when the contract comes, you will not even see the money. And most of the time, when the contract will come, he will not even have money to finance the contract. So it will be me who works in the bank who will go take a loan, give him the money, go and do the work. So when the check comes in, just a minute, when the check comes in, he won't pay the money that I took, you know, the capital for the nini. If you ask for it, he gets mad. At that time, he has spent the money. You don't know where he has spent the money on because rent is owing, food is owing, bills are impounding. We have 2 extra mouths to feed, plus me, plus the baby 4, plus him 5, and all of it is coming from my pocket. I was like, I need a break, you know, and I'm the one taking care of the medical bills, everything. So when he rose up and he said they will not leave that day, the man beat me, Hey.
I've never seen beating.
That day I saw beating. Till he tore my clothes, till I became totally naked. And he was telling me, you are going to leave the house. And he was pushing me outside of the bedroom. And you know, the 2 guys are in the bedroom. And it just happened, let me just finalize by this one. It just happened that my sister had just passed by to drop me. You know, when you come from the village, my mom would send me some things, some chicken, some fish. So he had just come by to drop it. So my sister is in my house for the first time, the second night. And 2 of his relatives are here, and my sister is witnessing beating, and my stomach is this big. My sister was on her way to school. She was studying at Thika. My sister was traumatized. My sister was the one calling my mother. This man is beating my sister. She is so heavily pregnant. What is going on? She broke down. She was there. She was crying. I was here. I was crying. I was in shambles.
All right. I'll come back to you, Margaret, so you can tell me everything you're describing. I'm wondering, Is this the same person we're talking about that you ended up forgiving?
Tall,
how
and
you
handsome.
did that? I'll come back to you, but then before that, let me get to Wafula. You are listening to what Margaret is sharing.
Yeah, sure,
I don't know what patterns or trends you're picking, especially when you look at such arrangements, because we could be talking to somebody this morning who may be going through the same thing she went through, or even worse, or another version of a traumatic experience that they've gone through. What is it that is standing out from the narration and some of the things you pick up?
Yeah, first I want to say that, Pastor, you are a very strong woman from what I'm hearing. Very, very strong indeed. Strong-willed emotionally, and, you know.
And to even share that
it takes a lot of courage, takes a lot of, you know, that commitment to actually deal with that pain. It's not easy, and really, I really want to, you know, affirm you for that. Now, experiences are personal, just like hers was personal. And I want to believe if we gave her more time, she would say that it took a while to actually deal with what she has gone through. So in dealing with such traumatic experience, to get to a position of, you know, forgiveness and healing, you first want to acknowledge the pain. Because you cannot forgive and heal if you have not acknowledged the pain. Now, one of the processes or stages of forgiveness is first forgiving yourself. Right? I mean, in whatever she has gone through, it wouldn't be possible for her to forgive the spouse if she did not even forgive herself first. Not because of any mistake that she may have done, but just forgiving yourself because of also the emotional pain that she has gone through, that she has carried. Because if you don't let that pain go, then it will be very difficult to forgive. Very, very difficult to forgive. So first you start with yourself, acknowledge the pain, acknowledge the issues around the experience that you have gone through. Then the next stage is now forgive the other person. If you have not emptied that pain, even if I would come with 1,000 apologies, you will not forgive me. So first it starts with you acknowledging it and accepting that I've gone through a very traumatic experience. I want to believe she's in that position, and that is why she's even talking what she's sharing this morning. Then the next stage is now forgiving the other person, because then you have dealt with yourself, you have emptied the emotions and the pain that you have gone through. You are now at a position of strength emotionally. It's very difficult to forgive if you are not at a position of emotional strength. Very difficult. First, you get to a position of emotional strength, then that then allows you to be able now to forgive the other person. And as you forgive the other person, it does not entirely mean that you have completely forgotten what you went through. But actually forgiveness is for the strong-willed people. It's not for the weak people. It's for the strong-willed. It's a sign of strength. Forgiveness is a sign of strength. And one of the golden rule in forgiveness is that it has to be genuine. And that genuineness is the strength, it's the point of strength that I'm talking about. Then comes the third stage. I have forgiven you, and I'm letting go of the pain.
So that is when the healing starts?
Now that is where the healing starts. I'm letting go of the pain, and I'm now getting into a position of going through the healing. I mean, as you get to that position, it actually helps you also to be able to psychologically be very healthy.
All right.
Because if you stay and remain with the pain, as you said, it's like taking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Yeah.
I'm imagining if she still hold on to that emotional pain, it wouldn't matter to the other person who is suffering here.
All right.
She will be the one suffering.
All right. Cutie, when you're hearing Pastor Margaret sharing her experience, and we kitumia kupendea, unatupatianga reality on the ground. It's not as easy as we are making it sound. Talk to me about why you think it's so difficult for people out there to just forgive and go through all the stages that Wafula is. It's not a perfect world, you just do it. Mbona inakuanga ngumu? Let's speak on behalf of that person who is holding something kutoka their childhood, let's speak on their behalf. Why is it so hard for them to let go?
First, I want to applaud Pastor Margaret. That was really powerful for her to speak about that. Thank you for sharing your story, because once you share your story, you're blessing someone else and giving them courage to come and talk about it. So going back to it, even not just abuse, but even when someone does something to you, all you think about is revenge. We always think like, this person does not deserve my forgiveness. This person actually really did this to me. You know, those are the things that go through your mind. Why did this person do this to me? Why did she abuse me? Why did she, you know, you're like, I don't deserve it. I deserve, and the only thing we actually do is just, you fall in love with someone. You're just there. It's life. You fall in love with someone, you love them, you give yourself to them, you actually go through the process of a relationship and all that, but you're not expecting all these things at the end of the day, Safin. You're just there, you're vulnerable, you love someone. So when this person starts doing all these things to you, you know what goes through your mind? Like, probably I'm the one who triggered him. I'm the one who did this to him. Maybe it's what I said last night. But in real sense, it's not even about that. It's not even about you. It's about them, what they went through, the trauma that they went through. It's actually them who needs healing. And actually, it's actually them who needs this forgiveness and healing. But at the end of the day, someone will always project what they're feeling towards you. And once you understand that, but then it's so hard walking away. And just walking away from a relationship, from someone who is abusive, even just a friend, you know, even family, you know, sometimes family is abusive, verbally, mentally, physically. It's really tough walking away, because you're like, I really love this person. So you always want to like hold on to this love. You're like, they're going to change. They're going to be okay. This is my mom. This is my dad. This is my family. So at some point, they're really going to change. We want to give them that chance. But in real sense, always know that the first red flag that comes, this will happen over and over again. And I think the hardest part is walking away, because unapenda huyu mtu, unataka kumuona in good light, unataka kubelieve, this is the person that I fell in love with, this is my family, this is my blood, they can't do this to me. So we always think about revenge, but I think as much as it's hard to walk away, Safin, the reality of the matter is, you have to collect yourself. Lazima tuji, yani lazima tujichoche. And I know it's sometimes society to judge sana, because you're afraid of walking away, because watasema nini, watani judge manze. Unajua, like my mom, if I go back to my mama ataniambia, endo vumilie ukae tu hapo.
Nakumbuka hawa ni mapasta.
Imagine, so unaenda, mtu anakupiga.
Ongezea tu hiyo,
alafu anakuuliza ni nini ulikuwa.
Mbona mliachana?
Okay. Alafu pia unajua, for hiyo circle utakuwa zile za mbona mliachana na mnyeni wa church and all that. So pia I think shame and judgment is one of the things that really makes it hard for someone to.
All right. I'll come back to you, Pastor Margaret, just to tell me, I don't know whether you relate with a few things that Cutie is sharing.
Yes.
You know, people usually ask, mbona utoki, mbona uendi, mbona... I just want you to take me back to your story a little bit and tell me whether you were having that hope that things will change. And for how long did you have to hold on to that hope? And what is that moment that was like a turning point for you, that you decided to walk away?
Let me say this. Whatsoever it is that I've said is not meant to demonize the person. That is a story that took place.
Yeah.
Like I told you, like the first time he did this, you heard me saying along the way, he apologized.
Yes.
And he said, I'm sorry. You know, when you're getting married, there's something that is normally called premarital counseling, where you are sat down. And one of the things I was told, ni mwanamke ni kurudi chini. So, and number two, I was told, men don't say sorry. They act and behave sorry. So, whenever he will do something and then amekuja kama amebeba kilo moja ya nyama.
You're not sorry.
That is sorry.
Yeah.
Whenever he will do something and then he comes back, he tells me, you know, I've paid rent. I was told apology. That is apology. I was told that is sorry. So mwanamke ni kufanya nini? Kurudi chini, to tone down, to go down. And then because my favorite meal is fish, I would go and buy very big fish, two of them, a small one and a slightly bigger one. Then he will come and tell me the bigger one is yours. For goodness sake. That is what?
Sorry.
That is sorry. Yeah. So anytime I would see something like that, I would tone down. Remember, let me say this a bit. On Sunday, our pastor was preaching in church and he said, every person has got two sides, the beast and the heavenly side of it. So remember, he also had a heavenly side of him. And now it is like the beast part of him is what came out very fast, or maybe too early, or maybe on a deeper side. So he would say sorry, do it again, say sorry, do it again, say sorry, do it again.
It kept on repeating.
I remember when I was 1 week to now giving birth, there was an incident of, I don't know whether to say an incident of infidelity or a symptom of infidelity, because that pregnancy made me nikae the other way around. It reboot my face. I was not as beautiful as
You're not your best.
I was on the other side. My nose was swollen, and then that pregnancy made me become 3 times darker. I was looking funny. My face was rough, and I want to say this with all due respect. I also feel that men should also be taken to a course of pregnancy, handling a pregnant woman, because we might be blaming them, and maybe he met a very fine girl, petite. Now the girl no waistline, the face is rough. I was spitting. I was looking funny. I was when you reach 8 months, you walk without a pant. You know, I was looking.
So
terrible.
this affected your marriage.
This, I think, in one way affected him, because by the time I was 8 months, I mean, close to a week to pregnancy, there was a case. And then when I came to know about it, it is the first time I'm meeting such a case. I've never been taught how to handle a case. So I reacted the way I thought, and I'm pregnant. And my hormones are not balanced at that time. I remember that day he came from work. He found me seated. He just asked me, Margaret, what's wrong with you? Before I realized there was something like a hot iron. I just felt something like a hot iron. You know, the baby just sipped, because I am just like due to delivery. Kumbe, it was a slap. Then I asked him, what are you doing this for? So before he even answered me, I felt another hot iron. So he slapped me 3 times, on the right, on the left, and back on the right. At that time, I'm so big, I cannot lift myself. You know, the only thing I did is that I covered the pregnancy. I'm like...
to protect your baby.
Just to protect it. That time I left.
So that is the time you walked out of your marriage, you said?
Not to live with anything. You know, you still have to go back to that bedroom and sleep on that bed.
So you didn't walk out of the marriage?
This is the 4th instance.
Okay.
The baby is not even up to 9 months, you get. So I went and I slept at my best couple's place. When I slept there, they had mixed reactions, because now this was the 4th time we have sat in panels to discuss this. And at that time he's saying he does not have any plan for that baby. Now that is when the bitterness came in.
All right. Margaret, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to move you a bit faster because of time. But I want to understand, what is that moment that you decided this was too much for me to
After I delivered, because you know, after that they still took us to the panel, they sat us down and they said this pregnancy was gotten in wedlock. The baby must be delivered in wedlock. So I was taken back to the house by force. He's not talking to me, I'm not talking to him. So I said the only way to do here, because at that time we were living in a 2-bedroom house, we had to shift bedrooms. So I moved into the 2nd bedroom, I left him in the other bedroom. I bought everything new for me in that bedroom, because I'm trying to manage a situation. I've not forgiven. But sincerely, I'm talking about the history in the past. My plan was what QT was talking about, to revenge, to organize a gang that can just meet him somewhere, not to shoot him, and give him beating, so that he can feel how it feels to be beaten. I just said I will organize a gang that will beat the hell out of him. I could not do it.
But you couldn't do it.
I'm a pastor.
All right.
I give birth. After I give birth, the baby is not even up to 3 months old. Now the infidelity that I had
seen signs.
At that time that I received 3 hot plates of hot iron on my cheeks, now it had matured and it had grown. It came back. Let me tell you, sijakauka huku chini. I delivered normally. The man was so mad. The man was so hungry. He took the belt, the side of the battle. He beat me with it. And you know, when you are breastfeeding, you put on very lightly. I was putting just on like a camisole. We are living in the same plot where the landlord stays. So the landlord had to come in. That day I was just tired, I screamed. So neighbors were coming in. The landlord is here. He is beating me even in front of the landlord. I don't know whether to hold the baby. You know, when you're around you're having a close to 3 months old baby, you have milk everywhere. You know, a pregnant woman, I mean, a woman who has just delivered is just a little bit 90% messy, because you have to contain your healing process down there. You have to control the milk. You have to control a new baby, and this is a new environment, and it was the first baby.
All right, I'll have to cut you short, because I'm trying to manage the time that I have. I'll come back to you, so that I want you to tell me all this that you have narrated. You forgave this person and you healed, and you're here today talking about this story as one of your, I would say, your scar of strength. How that happened, I will come back to you. Just give me a few minutes to also hear from Wafula. How do you forgive? You know, me by the way, how do you forgive that? You know, we are telling people to forgive and heal. And but how do you forgive what she went through, and what other people, deep things that people out there have gone through?
You know, I'm seated here, and I mean, one of the things that she has said is that men need to go through some training. So I'm a man, and I'm imagining what that means. But I started by saying forgiveness is an art. Forgiveness is a choice. It's basically a choice. You make a choice to let go. Other people have gone through similar experiences, some worse, some better, and they did not make that choice to forgive. So, I mean, hearing what she says is that I think at some point she deliberately made the choice to let go of that pain. And I think that is the beginning of the healing process. If you do not make that choice, you will stay with that bitterness as long as you are alive in this world. What does it do to you? It has even a possible implication of sickness, because you can imagine walking a bitter person. I mean, anytime you are bitter, anytime you are angry, our body reacts in a certain way. In fact, our bodies produce toxins that would compromise some of your internal organs. No wonder you have heard people say, I have ulcers, as a result of not any other thing, but an emotional experience. So until you get to that realization that, by the way, I first need to deal with myself. And I've said, those who forgive are at a point of strength, because they have acknowledged that for sure, I've gone through this situation, bad as it may, but what is my choice? My choice is either to live with that pain, or to let go and start the process of healing. And that is where now the rubber meets the road. Because as you start the healing process, there might be other triggers. Recurrence of a past experience that reminds you. Again, it takes you back. And by the way, it doesn't mean that when you forgive, then now, and as I'm saying, you're at a point of strength, then now you are okay to move on boldly. Sometimes you break down. And it is okay to break down because of a trigger, of a thought that surely, even sometimes you get so angry towards God that, God, why would you allow me to go through such an experience? Why me? You know? But those are the moments of realization that, by the way, I'm a human being. I keep telling people, by the way, these things, we are human beings. And so some of the experiences that she's narrating about are for us human beings. Unfortunately, as they are. And I'm not wishing anyone any bad experience. It's not fair to go through what she's telling us today. But it's also good that when you get to that point of desperation and anger and bitterness and resentfulness, fair enough, those are your emotions. But what do you choose to do with your emotions? That is the difference between healing and remaining there and wanting to, what she was saying, taking revenge and doing some other funny stuff that may be there. All right.
Cutie, do you think we live, managing emotions is something that he's saying, but do you think we live in a society where that has become quite a challenge for us to do? Look at the headlines, look at what is happening, to our young girls, to our young men, and the news these days is something I really don't look forward to watch, Do you think we've gotten to that maturity, point of maturity, that we can be able to manage our emotions and actually go the direction that we're advocating this morning?
Not yet, Safin. We are not yet there, because Gen Z is coming up, Gen Alpha is also coming up thick and fast. So it's really hard.
Oh, we're almost in Gen
Alpha. We're almost there.
Old.
The 15-year-olds, the 14-year-olds, they're coming in thick and fast. So I think for us as a society, we need to accept something that is called therapy. And I think that is something people don't like talking about. No one wants to accept, I have a problem, I'm going to see a therapist, I'm going to seek for help, no one wants to talk about that. And even whatever it is that is happening, we as the parents, we are not talking to our children. We are not actually facing the monster or the elephant in the room. We just want to throw them under the rug and just move on and say, where we end up, the world is there, it's out there waiting for you. But as she said a very important part. Men need to go through therapy for actually dealing with those first stages of marriage. All these changes that are happening, I think it also affects them. We might not be able, but that's not an excuse to actually, abuse someone or beat.
But it's a reality we need to observe. It's a reality we
need to observe. People need to go through therapy. I think that is a very, very important, and also counseling. It's a very important part that we are all skipping. And as we said before, can the government just do this in schools? Can we start doing this in schools? Because if these people are healing from the childhood traumas, then we will at least prevent all these things that are happening in marriages and all that. Because for me personally, I think these are childhood traumas. Maybe this person grew up seeing things and now he wants to project them to another person because it makes him feel powerful. It makes him feel all high and mighty, So therapy is something that we need, and counseling, something that we really need to look into, Safin, and people should seek help. That's all I can say.
I wish we had the whole day just to sit with Margaret and to share with you your experience. But what I want us not to end this program before doing is to tell our viewer how you ended up forgiving this gentleman, and what processes did you have to take yourself through for that to happen, and where are you at in the stages that he was describing, acknowledging, forgiving, and actually now healing. Where uko wapi sahi, and what is the status? Are you together, or well, that's another story for another day?
We are not together for now. At that time when I saw him beating me in front of my landlord, that was the day I decided to leave, because I said, now the next time this man will kill me, maybe. I left. We were separated for 3.5 years. I stepped aside so that maybe he can work on himself, because when I did my self-analysis, I realized the challenge was not me. I realized the challenge was him. It didn't even take 1 month. He already had another woman in the same house where I was, the same room, the same bed, the same mattress, the same everything. So I was very bitter. I had to go back to our church in shame, embarrassment. You are a pastor. I could not stand on the pulpit. I had to sit down, but I really want to thank God because of my bishop, Apostle Vincent. He never called me Margaret even for 1 single day. He kept on calling me Pastor Margaret, Pastor Margaret, Pastor Margaret. So every day he would call me and he would remind me, you are a pastor, you are a pastor, you are a pastor. So he told me, even if this has happened, you have to accept it. I went through self-acceptance. I went through bitterness. I went through planning revenge against him, and the revenge was planned.
Did you question God also? Were you mad at God at some point?
At that time, when you're planning all these things, they're not in accordance to the word. So I was on my own side. I went through forgiveness. I went through healing. And the best part that I went through was kujiamini. And even this year, I started a hashtag Jiamini. Believe in yourself. I woke up one day and I just told myself, Margaret, you are Margaret. There will never be any other Margaret like you. So before you die, you need to let the world know that there was a Margaret that coexisted.
This forgiveness you're talking about, what version is it looking like? Is it internal forgiveness and saying that in my space, in this new circumstance that I am in, I will forgive myself, forgive that person and move on? Or is it forgiveness that even ended up you communicating to that person that I know you hurt me, but I've let go and we are good?
The first forgiveness that I did was for myself, because everybody was like, if you did not say yes to him, or maybe you did not date him long enough.
This wouldn't have happened.
But I want to say that he still had a good side. He was not a demon, you get. Because after 3.5 years, when he approached me back, I said yes.
So that's when you went back?
Yes, and we got a second baby. Who totally looks like him, a very beautiful girl.
So ulisahau hiyo yote, Margaret. You forgot all that.
Through forgiveness, is when you acknowledge that somebody has got a weakness, but you choose to see beyond the weakness that is in the person.
Kuna weakness unaweza look beyond.
So I chose to see beyond, because do you know, now if I become a little bit spiritual.
Yeah, it is powerful, yeah.
Each and every one of us has got a weakness. That man is married to you, that woman is married to you, not because you are an angel, but because the person has chose to see beyond your weakness, because you're beyond your weak points. Because do you know there are men who cheat, there are women who cheat, they drink, they squander money, but they're happily married. Look at their wives, look at their husbands. They go to church every Sunday. There are no cases of violence. Yani, they have reached a self-acceptance level. This is who he is, this is who I am. Kanyaga twende. You understand? Everybody has got a weakness. So long as it is not life-threatening.
So so you went back, you guys were good. How was this part 2 marriage, in summary? And now that you're telling us you guys are not together, we are kind of like, what really happened? You forgave? Because we are trying to be as realistic as possible.
For the show?
We should advocate for part 2, because you need story ingine.
I need to take 3 pills of Panadol. to make me try to forget the headache, because after forgiving him, coming back, it was like he was not sincere in the forgiveness. I was sincere in the forgiveness. He was not sincere in the repentance. I was sincere in the repentance. So it's like, now because I've accepted myself, I've bounced back. Now I'm back to being financially stable. So he was like, if I go back, and now he was the one who is down. If I go back, I just pretend a little bit, things will be well. He came with another intention of grabbing another lot of money, but now he found me stronger,
so
wiser.
Forgiveness has to be two-way. That's what I'm picking from what you're saying, right? Yeah, Wafula?
Sure.
I just don't forgive, but it also, from your part also,
yes,
you play your part.
Yeah, in fact, in forgiveness, there's responsibility. So all of us have to be responsible to actually actualize the forgiveness. If I just say I have forgiven you and you're not also very genuine, and as I said, one of the golden rules of forgiveness is genuineness and a positive attitude. So you have to be very sincere that for real, I have wronged you. This is what I have done. Acknowledge and say, I am committed towards making sure that as you heal, as I heal, we are actually very genuine with each other.
All right. Oh, how time flies. I wish we had more time for this. But very quickly, let me just... final words. Margaret, just tell me, you finished, going through your healing process. Right now, you guys are not together. You're separate.
We are not together.
But I want to hear from you within. Do you feel like you forgave regardless, you healed regardless of whether you guys are together or not? How just shika anything, you don't have any grudges?
I cannot have anything against him. Number one, all the 2 babies look like him. From nose to mouth, the way they eat. In fact, let me say the funniest part. The behind of my son is like exactly like his. So if I say I still have anything against him, I am cursing my children.
Yeah, that.
My children bear his DNA. My children bear his name. That is blood. The kids are innocent. For the sake of my children, I let go everything. Because every day I see them, I see him. My daughter is beautiful. My boy is handsome. Automatically, the dad is equally what? Handsome. So I have to live with a constant reminder that these children have got a source. And that is, the happiest part of it. When my son is called Otieno in school, I don't have anything bitter about it. That is where God knew that these 2 amazing angels are going to come from. Even when he went on social media and said, even this girl, other girl is no man, I said, that is crap, that is rubbish, that is nonsense. My child has got a source. And God knows the source. And because of that, I don't have anything against you. You have got your own life, you have got your own destiny, you have got your own assignment to fulfill. My own is here with the children. My children must eat, my children must dress, my children must go to school, my children must grow up in the way of the Lord. Even today in the morning, I pray for him. My greatest prayer for him is because he was a pastor before everything. He backslid and went now into alcohol. Every time I go back on my knees, I normally pray, God, may you return him back to a place whereby he will go back to serving you. Not to a place whereby he come and be a husband to my children, because he's an original deadbeat. He has never done anything. I don't even think he will ever do anything. That is his own choice. But as for me, my children will never fail to go to school. My children will never fail to have clothing. I do 4 jobs in a day. just to ensure my children are afloat.
All right.
And because of that, I don't have anything against him. What if I was an original widow? What if the husband was dead?
Yeah.
Would the children still not go to school? So I want to say this to every woman. Stop all this thing. You're going to go to children's office. For what? You've got hands. You've got legs. Work. Provide for those children. And cover the nakedness of that, their original biological father. That belongs to God. God was the one who orchestrated it like that. Yeah. But for you, do your part.
All right. Pastor Margaret Kenya, I just feel like we needed the whole day, just like I started and said, we needed the whole day just to hear her story. I feel like we've really rushed through it, but our main objective was just to take you to the depth of what she went through. And she's here sitting today and saying she forgave everything. And she's even telling us she actually prays for that person these days. And she's actually proud that their children have a source. And that source is what at some point in her story gave her so much pain. But she has risen beyond that pain. And one thing that also teaches us this morning from your experience, Pastor Kenya, is you don't continue exposing yourself to a toxic environment just because to prove a point, yeah? It gets to a point where you have to love yourself enough to separate yourself from that toxic environment. And it doesn't mean you have not forgiven. It doesn't mean you're holding any grudges. It doesn't mean that kuna shida.
And you know, there are some churches that don't even give you their pulpit to preach because you are a single parent. I just say, it's not a must I preach to your pulpit because you are married or not. There are mad people in the market. You can preach on Facebook, you can preach on radio, even here on Citizen TV. I'm not preaching. All
right. Thank you so much. Such a powerhouse, Pastor Margaret Kenya. She's a doctor as well. Don't forget that. A career woman, a woman who has gone through a lot, and she's just sharing her story to inspire you and to tell you that it is possible that you can bounce back and you can actually tell that tale with a face that is smiling and tell people how he rose above that. And we've also been having this conversation with Richard Wafula. He's a counseling psychologist from Amani Counseling Center and Training Institute, and the lovely QT as well, radio presenter, always with us on the show, as we were here just, having this very important conversation. That is how we wrap it up, unfortunately, because of time. But we hope even if it is a point or two or three that you've gathered from this conversation, it's going to go a long way to help you or somebody you know that could be dealing with traumatic experience out there. For now, it's a wrap. My name is Safina Chingoma. Have a lovely day ahead.